And hi, everybody. I don't know if anyone is out there quite well. No one's out here quite yet, but that's okay. Hello, we're going to start in just a minute. Maybe. So we'll start in just a minute here. I may have to, it's possible we'll end the stream and then start something new. I don't know. There are 3 people here. I can't see a manage. I should manage. Just give me a minute here. Hope everyone is doing well. I don't see a chat box, so I'm gonna have to figure out what I did wrong, if I did anything. Live chat. Enable live chat. Yes. Yes, I want to enable live chat. Hold on. Oh, just give me a moment, folks. I will be there in just a moment. I'm trying to enable the live chat, which is not allowing me to do for some reason. I don't know why. Hi, everybody. So if you'll just give me just another moment or two, I'm just trying to kind of figure this thing out here. I think part of it has to do with my internet connection. So thank you all for being here. It is wonderful to be here with you guys. I love it, as you know. And so we're going to do a loving kindness meditation. We're going to have story time, maybe, if I can get this thing to work a little bit better. We're going to give it a whirl here. Oh, hold on. Yes, I know it's turned off, and I'm trying to turn it on. Okay. All right. So that's why I'm saying give me just a few more minutes here to try to figure this out. And then we'll get ready with the meditation. We'll do the story time, and live chat is really important. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm doing right now. But I'm having again. I don't know if it's the I don't know exactly what it is, but I am trying my best to kind of work with this. So if you just be patient, just give me 2 more minutes. I may end the stream and restart the stream. So give me just a moment. I don't know why this does this. If not, then we'll just go ahead without a live chat. And we'll do it next time, and I'll be more prepared because I'm actually kind of new at doing this. I'll be back in 30 seconds. Hi, back. Okay, here's what we're going to do. So we're going to start the meditation. I'm give you instructions on the loving kindness meditation. We're going to do this, and while you do that, I'm going to try to get the live chat enabled. And pardon me for my my kind of technical difficulties here today, but hey, we can roll with this, right? Absolutely. All right. Again, wonderful. Welcome to this class. This is the Dharma Bum Temple. If you haven't been here before, welcome. Normally I say to say hi in the chat box, but for some reason this chat isn't working today. So that's okay. We'll do it without it today, or I'll try to get it working while we do the meditation. All right. So let's all get our nice seated position, if we could. Get ready for this loving kindness meditation. I actually changed the lights up there to make it a little bit better than last time. That was really super bright. And so I hope this is better than last week. All right. And let's do this, shall we? So just allow your eyes to close, making sure that you have that position that's nice and comfortable for you, nice and sustainable, so you're not likely to move around too much. And at first, let's just start to pay a gentle attention to the breath. Focusing on your breath at the base of the nostrils, feeling the air go in and out as you breathe. Or focusing on the belly or the chest, feeling its expansion and contraction as you breathe. Maybe taking a deep breath all the way in and all the way out. Not forcing it, letting the breath be quite easy and quite natural. And so we have this time at the beginning of this meditation so we can connect with the breath and get our mind ready for this loving kindness meditation. Rest as gently as you can in the sensations of the breath. So, to begin our practice of loving kindness, we're going to start with a benefactor. And again, you know, a benefactor is anyone who has shown us great love and great kindness. Someone it's really easy to do this practice for. You just think of this person and your heart begins to grow and get warmer. And so, to do this practice, just radiate loving kindness to this person or these people. Consider their wish to be happy, their wish to be safe, free from harm, healthy, at peace, and at ease in this world. And just radiate loving kindness to them, and however you understand that word. And so we'll do this for the next few moments. And now shifting our focus just a little bit from loving kindness for our benefactor to now imagining our benefactor doing this practice for us. Our benefactor has meant so much to us because you already have that experience of their loving kindness in your own heart. It's now you're just going to imagine them doing it again, radiating loving kindness from their heart to yours. And your only job is just to let this in and to receive their loving kindness, to receive their unconditional friendliness and goodwill. If you feel any tension, don't fight it. Just breathe into that tension and see if you can let a little bit more of that in. And so for the next few moments, we'll do this practice where we imagine our benefactor doing this practice for us. Now, probably the most important part of this meditation is our ability to have this loving kindness and to do this practice for ourselves. So before we do this, just call to mind your own wish to be happy, your own wish to be free from harm, your own wish to be safe, healthy, and think about all of the ways that you do the exact opposite of that. and cause suffering for yourself. Doing this practice for ourselves really helps with that, as we can forgive ourselves and understand how everybody does this. And we can either repeat these phrases for ourselves: may I be happy, may I be safe, or whatever phrase of loving kindness is really going to work for you. Or you can just radiate this loving kindness back onto yourself, feeling your own heart get bigger and warmer. Tapping into the luminous quality of the heart. And so we'll just do this for the next few moments, doing this practice of loving kindness for ourselves. And now finally, we can explore the limitless quality of the heart by doing this practice for all beings in all directions. May all beings be happy. May all beings do the things that cause happiness. May all beings engage in positive thoughts, words, actions. So go as far out as you can. Extend yourself as far as you can. Explore this limitless quality of the heart. And we'll do that to end this meditation just for a few moments. And so just open your eyes when you're ready. As you can see, I've enabled the chat. It took me a little bit of time. And so hopefully you didn't hear too much clickety-clacking during the beginning of the meditation. So, in the next minute, as you stretch your arms and you stretch your legs, keeping your mindfulness on that loving kindness. Say hello. I would love to hear from you. Semi-permanent has already said hello. So hello, if you're still there, Mr. Semi-permanent. And then we can take questions as well, and we can have a little conversation before story time. Hi, Jean. Wonderful to see you. Glad you can have the opportunity to say hi. So I was setting up this meeting, and hi, Belle. Good to see you again. And I said that during the setup that this meeting was for kids, or kid appropriate. Apparently, if you mark something kid appropriate starting in January, chat is automatically disabled. I don't know why, but I guess that's the way they do it. So I had to go back in the settings and say that no, it's not for kids, which is just as well because sometimes I swear. So, there you go. And I don't know of like any kids that just kind of, you know, join in. Hi, Cecile. Good to see you. If anybody, if this is your first time here, also let me know that this is your first time here to the Loving Kindness class or even the Dharma Bum Temple online class. I had a really good conversation with somebody at a local store here in Encinitas where I live. And we kind of got to talking, and I told her kind of how I do this class. And she says, hey, well, yeah, if you have like a flyer or something like that of like a list of your online classes and things like that, just let me know and I'll put it up on the board. There's like a board in the shop that has all want ads and classes and things like this. So I think I'm going to look for that. I don't know if we have anything specifically to the online class, but we'll see. I'll ask Jeff. Cecile, it's your first time here. Wonderful. Welcome. Are you in San Diego or a San Diego area? If not, let us know where you're from. Or even if you're in San Diego, let us know where you're from. And hi, Marisa. Oh, my goodness. Last week, as you can see, I have my little tapestry up, and I just have it taped up, right? So it's not super. You recently moved here. Oh, your name is Michael. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my God. Hi, Michael. Welcome. Welcome to San Diego, and welcome to the Dharma Bum Temple. But my little tapestry up here was taped on, and like literally 2 minutes after class ended, it all came down because it's all held up with that like not super sticky tape, because the tape that kind of easily comes off the wall and things like that. And so I had to do it again. So that's okay. I just put more tape in there. But if it comes off, don't worry about it. It's fine. All right. Okay. So again, one more time, any questions, any comments, anything about the meditation that you found easy or difficult, distracting? Did I distract you? Am I just clickety clack, 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 trying to frantically get things set up? And then we'll start this wonderful story time, and we're going to be talking about Ananda. And I talked a little bit last week about him. And this story I have named The Last Attachment. And I named it, you'll see why I named this story The Last Attachment. Because, and I think Eric, if you're here, you mentioned something last week about how in all of these stories from the Buddha that you hear about all these monks, they just hear the Buddha and they become enlightened. And, it can get a little bit frustrating just because, it's not like that for us. It's certainly not like that for me. I've been doing this for like, 13 years now, 14 years and 14 years, and I'm not enlightened yet. And I have plenty of monks who've been doing this for a long time, and they're not enlightened yet either. So sometimes you hear all these stories from the Buddha, and everyone's enlightened all the time, and it's like, oh man, that would be great, right? Oh, well, thank you, Bill. I'm glad you had a little bit better time of it this time. That's wonderful. Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. Okay, so no questions, no comments. That's perfectly fine. That isn't a problem. And so, what I'm going to do is I am going to start my story. And again, like I said, this is the story of Ananda, and I like to call this the story of, or not the story of Ananda. It is the story of Ananda, but the name of the story really is The Last Attachment. And Ananda, like I've said before, was this wonderful person, this wonderful monk. Part of the Buddha's posse of close, main disciples. And the thing about Ananda is that he and the Buddha had spent hundreds of lifetimes together previously. They were very much linked from lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. A Buddha, Ananda was, besides the Buddha, probably one of the most beloved people in the sutras. When you read them, he not only did everything for the Buddha as the Buddha's attendant, but he also managed a lot of the Sangha activities. He managed a lot of the audiences with the Buddha and the Sangha and the lay people and the Buddha. And he was just very, very, very good with people. He had these like amazing people skills, which is why one of the reasons why he was so good at his job. He was, because he had all these lifetimes with the Buddha previously, he was known for his unwavering devotion, his incredible gentleness. Uh, he was the Buddha's attendant for the last 25 years of the Buddha's life. So he started being the Buddha's attendant when they were both 55. Because, I'll get to this in a minute. But again, they were very, very, very much linked. And even though there's so many stories that happened in the sutras from before Ananda even took over, because Ananda didn't even take over as the main attendant until the Buddha was 55. But all these stories in the sutras saying Ananda said this and the Buddha said this, and they're in dialogue, and Ananda is very much part of the story. A lot of times those stories, when we know that they took place before when Ananda actually became the attendant, when the people were like telling the sutras and the stories were just become a congealing and came into being, a lot of times we think they just inserted Ananda in there because he was a good person to insert in there, uh, and that's okay. That's not a problem. They're stories, and they're meant to be looked at like that. It's what you get out of it and the dharma that you get out of it that's really important. So being as linked as they were, Ananda and the Buddha were born on the same day, and they were cousins. Ananda's father and the Buddha's father, Sudhana, they were brothers. So Ananda's father was Amitadana, and his brother was Sudhana, which was the Buddha's father. And so they were born on the same day. They grew up together in the palaces. But it's really interesting that we never hear of Ananda then. Like we knew he was there, but we don't hear from him then. We only hear about the Buddha and maybe Chana and his mom and his wife and his dad in the sutras in his early life. You know, um, so and the story really only starts about maybe 2-3 years actually after the Buddha's enlightenment. So the Buddha was enlightened at 35, and I think it was 2 years. I think it was 37 when Ananda became a monk who joined the Buddha's Sangha. And he did so at the same time as like Devadatta, who was also the Buddha's cousin, who couldn't stand the Buddha, who was incredibly jealous of him. So he came at the same time as Devadatta. And during his first rains retreat, Ananda attained the fruit of stream entry, which is the first stage of enlightenment. Right? Now, The thing that's kind of interesting about this is that he stayed this way. You hear about all these monks becoming fully enlightened in 1 week, 2 week, a month, 2 months, or even instantaneously. We hear plenty of that in the sutras. Not Ananda. He gained the fruit of stream entry, which is like stage one, the first part. But there's other parts of that, and that didn't happen for him. For 17 years afterwards, didn't happen for him. For the entirety of the Buddha's lifetime, didn't happen for him. Didn't. He stayed this stream enterer. And so this was it's really, really interesting. It's really interesting why it happened the way that it happened. So we're going to get into a little bit more of that. And so, although he wasn't fully enlightened, to become a stream enterer, you have to have impeccable behavior. Your conduct has to be perfect or near perfection. And he was like this, absolutely perfect. And so it comes time where the Buddha is now 55 years old, and Ananda has been a monk for 17 years, and the Buddha says that, I'm 55 years old and I've had several attendants, and none of them fulfilled this role perfectly, as some have been willful. And now it's time for a new attendant. And everyone was wanting Ananda to say something because they knew that he was the perfect person for the job. Like other monks offered, but the Buddha said no. And plenty of other monks wanted Ananda to say something, but Ananda would never. He would never say anything. He would never express this want, this desire, this wish to be the Buddha's attendant. Because he thought to himself that, well, the Buddha himself already knows who would be the perfect person. And so it's up to him. It's not up to me. It's not up to me to tell him that I would like to be his attendant. So I'm not going to say anything. And I'm going to just go by the Buddha's choice. Whoever he chooses is fine. But he had, that much confidence in the Buddha, so many lifetimes that he spent together. And so the Buddha finally asks Ananda if he would be his attendant. And Ananda goes, I will, but I have some conditions. Isn't that interesting? Like, I have some conditions for you. And he did. He had like these four, what we call 4 negative conditions and 4 positive conditions, right? So they balanced out quite nicely. And so the 4 negative conditions were that he says, you never give robes to me. You never give me alms food that you've received for yourself. And having received a dwelling place, that you never give it to me. And you never include me in any personal invitations. So if they invite you somewhere, you don't have, I'm not going to come because that's your invitation. That isn't mine. And so those were the 4 kind of negative ones. And so the 4 positive ones were, if Ananda was invited to a meal, that he could transfer that to the Buddha. And if that people came from far away, that he had permission to lead them to the Buddha. And that if he had any doubts or any questions about the Dharma in any way, and that he could come to the Buddha at any time and ask him a question and have him explain it to him. And that if Ananda missed a teaching, that's okay. And that if Ananda missed a teaching, that he would get the Buddha to repeat it for him at a later time. So the Buddha said, this is great. Yeah, absolutely. That works for me. And then the Buddha was now his attendant. And one of the things that Ananda was really known for was his incredible wisdom and his penetration into the Dharma. And so his knowledge and his wisdom was so great that so many times the Buddha said, hey, Ananda, you take over and you tell him about this. And so Ananda would give this recitation about maybe the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Paths and the hindrances, or whatever the topic may be. And the monks would tell the Buddha what Ananda said about this teaching, and the Buddha would say, I couldn't have said it any better myself. Never any better myself. Um, and he could give, the Buddha sometimes would make these like really brief statements about Dharma, and the monks would get all confused about, they didn't really know exactly what to make of it, but Ananda always knew what to make of it. So he'd always give a lecture on that. Um, he had a very good relationship with women. He was not afraid to teach women. A lot of the monks, maybe were a little reticent just because it looked to be, kind of improper to be to teach women. But not Ananda. He was totally fine with it. Uh, he was a wonderful mediary. Am I saying that word right? Mediary. Yeah, I think that's right. Um, and so, there was this one time where Mahapajapati, the Buddha's stepmother, had traveled a long time because she wanted to become a nun, and there were no nuns back then. There were no Buddhist nuns or the nuns a part of the Sangha. And Mahapajapati came, and she was all disheveled, and her hair looked terrible, and she was filthy and dirty and had sores on her feet because she walked so long. And she's a queen; she's not used to walking so long in dirty clothes and dirty hair and all of that stuff. And so Ananda was very wise and was an intermediary for her, and because she wanted to be a nun, and the Buddha said no. And so she went off really upset. And Ananda came to her and said, "Look, let me talk to him. All right, let me talk to him. I'll be right back." And so he goes to the Buddha and said, "This woman, she is the only mother that you've ever known. You suckled at her breast. She took care of you, and she raised you, and she loved you just as if you were her own son. So could you please just let her into the Sangha? Wouldn't that be good as a repayment to her?" And he goes, "Okay, I'll do that." And so he was very, very wise about that. Um, and the Buddha always said that even though he was, not, he was still on the higher path of training, he wasn't fully enlightened like so many of the other monks were. He said that it would be very difficult to find someone equal to him in wisdom. And he also had this incredible memory. He knew all of the Buddha's teachings. He could just hear something once. He could hear up to, I think it's like up to 16,000 words, and he can recite it verbatim, word for word. All of the Buddha's teachings. He would never forget anything. And everybody knew this too. And this skill would come in handy at the very end of the Buddha's, right after the Buddha's died, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Um, so, Ananda was one of these people who had no enemies. And I talked about this last week. He had no enemies. You see, you think someone who had all of this knowledge of the Dharma, and he could recite everything, and he had all these wonderful qualities, some pride would set in him, would kind of rise up in him. But his life was so subordinated by the Dharma that fame could not touch him. Fame, pride, ego, none of these things could touch him. Right? There was no room for pride and no room for complacency. And he took criticism well too, even though he didn't make very many mistakes, especially in behavior, because he was, he had perfected it so well. He did, occasionally make a small mistake, and when he was reminded of it, he goes, "You know what? I did, and I'll do better." There was no pride about him, not admitting a mistake or anything like that, But one of the things that probably irked him a little, and maybe irked is the wrong word, or where he pushed back was, one of the other like senior monks, Mahakassapa, said, "You're just a learner, someone who's just a learner." And that was a little bit of a diss because all these other monks had been fully enlightened. He was still on the higher training, and he'd been on the higher training for decades at this point, And so he took a little bit of offense to that. He didn't mean anything mean by it because Mahakassapa was a fully enlightened being, and so he only knew how to do something lovingly. But he said this not to be mean, but to say, hey, you gotta wake up, you gotta pick up the pace here, you know. Um, but the Buddha never really worried about that because the Buddha said that Ananda will, will become fully enlightened before he leaves this world. And so the Buddha made this prediction. Ananda seemed to be okay with it, um, but he needed to do it pretty quickly. Um, and so another wonderful thing about Ananda was, there were certain monks that were the foremost monk in like one thing. Like you're the foremost in this thing of all of the monks. And in two of the monks, they were the foremost in two things, right? But they were kind of minor things. Ananda was the foremost of the monks in five things. Five things. So he was the foremost of all of the monks, of those who have heard much and who have learned the Buddha's discourses. He was the foremost of all of the monks who had a good memory. He was the foremost of all of the monks who had mastery of the sequential structure of the teachings. He was the foremost of those who were steadfast in study, and he was the foremost of all of the Buddha's attendants. And being an attendant was hard. If you had any idea what it took to be an attendant, not only being like a secretary, but being like a personal assistant, and being all of those things plus more wrapped up into one. So, some of the responsibilities that Ananda had were, to bring him water for washing his face and for brushing his teeth. He arranged his seat. He washed his feet and massaged the Buddha's back because the Buddha was a human being and he got old and he got achy and he got tired and his muscles hurt too. He fanned the Buddha. He swept his cell. He mended his robe. He slept nearby at night to be always near him, so in case he was needed. He accompanied him on rounds of the monastery. After meetings with the monks, he checked to see if any monks left anything behind. He carried the Buddha's messages. He called the monks together even at midnight. When he was sick, he obtained medicine for the Buddha. He took care of the other monks with the Buddha, and he had just so many other daily tasks. And those were like the personal tasks that he had, like, the ways that he was a personal attendant. But he was also kind of a secretary for him too. So he facilitated all the communications between him and the monks. He was always involved in resolving disputes. He was a go-between for monks, arranging meetings with them and the Buddha. He brought teachings of the Buddha to other sects, and he was an intermediary between lay people and the Buddha. And so he was so beloved that they would always a lot of times they would just come to Ananda first before they even tried to go to the Buddha. So good were his people skills that they would just go to Ananda first. And so, you talk about this wonderful memory that Ananda had. And, during the Buddha's time, there were 82,000 teachings from the Buddha and 2,000 from other monks. So a total of 84,000 total. And he pretty much knew all of them. But one of the things about being so inextricably linked to the Buddha over lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, and one of the reasons I think, now this is just me, this is my own view, right? That he hadn't attained full enlightenment yet, is that he was too attached. There was that kind of little bit of attachment there, just enough so that he couldn't gain that full enlightenment. And to be honest, he was so busy all the time, he couldn't meditate as much as the other monks could meditate. He couldn't do a lot of those things. He was so busy. And he did all of these things joyfully and happily, and he loved it. but didn't leave him a whole lot of time to meditate and to really be focused on the final goal. It was the last 3 months of the Buddha's life, and he said that he would die, and Ananda was like incredibly aggrieved. He was very sad about this, and the Buddha, said, "Well, I could live as long as the age, which is thousands of years. If someone asked him to, I could do it." And Ananda was right next to him, and he couldn't hear him. He was just so upset and so aggrieved that he was going to die in 90 days. And here's the Buddha saying that, hey, I could live to the end of the age if somebody asked me. If somebody asked me, wink, wink. And he said it once, he said it twice, he said it again, 3 times. And the Ananda just couldn't hear it because, part of that attachment was that he was so sad that the Buddha was leaving this earth. And then, Ananda finally got it. Because, I get it. Oh, okay, yeah, please stay. Yeah, stay, please. Yeah, I heard you. And the Buddha goes, sorry, I said it 3 times, you didn't say anything. So I'm gonna go. Can you imagine? And but one of the things about Ananda that I also liked is his humanness. I'm glad that he wasn't fully enlightened, that he just had attained stream entry, which is wonderful, but not full enlightenment. I'm glad that happened. And things happened perfectly as they were supposed to happen, because for me it just adds so much to his humanness in that time. And there is the Buddha. The Buddha, after the Buddha dies, Ananda is just sitting there and he's crying. And he's consoled by his older half brother, Anuruddha, who is also one of the Buddha's main disciples. But Anuruddha is a different animal altogether. Anuruddha spent most of his time alone in seclusion because that's just kind of what his temperament was. And it was very kind of unlike Anuruddha to be consoling or anything, but there he is. Ananda is crying and weeping when the Buddha died, and Anuruddha came and he came and he consoled him. He said, however he consoled him, which was monumental because they hadn't spoken hardly at all in the last 40 years. But there was still work to be done after the Buddha died. After the Buddha died, Mahakassapa, another one of the senior monks, told Ananda that there was going to be a council to discuss the teachings. And Ananda was the only one who knew all of the teachings, so he was the only one who really could recite all of the major teachings. But actually, I'll get to that in a minute. And so Mahakassapa goes, hey, Ananda, why don't you go live in the forest for a while in solitude, because you have got to hurry your progress. You have got to get this done. You have got to reach the final goal. And we don't have Sariputra anymore. We don't have Moggallana anymore because they died before the Buddha did. And so it's really basically just you. And so he goes to live in the forest, and the people come find him, and they come find him, and they're crying, and they don't know what to do, and then Ananda's he's not alone anymore, and he doesn't have any solitude, and he can't meditate, and because he's trying to console all these people, which he did, very lovingly, and he, that's just the kind of person that he was, and so he wasn't any closer to the goal, and then finally his brother came up to him the night before the council and says, look, here's the deal. You can't come to this council unless you're fully enlightened. If you're not fully enlightened, you can't come. You just can't do it. And he practiced hard all that night, going over the hindrances and the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path and factors of enlightenment and all these different types of things, and he all the entire night he practiced. And come the morning, he's tired, and he's he's exhausted, and so he mindfully just goes to sleep. And they say before after his feet left the ground and before his head hit the pillow, he gained the final goal, and he became a fully enlightened being. Finally, he was able to let go of that final attachment, which was the Buddha. That's what he was attached to. He was attached to the Buddha, and the Buddha died, and he finally can let go and become a fully enlightened being. And so these people at the council were there because that someone has to recite all of the teachings, and Ananda is the only one who can do it. And you can only come there if you're a fully enlightened being. So how is Ananda going to show all of these people that he became a fully enlightened being? Well, how he did it was he flew in. He literally levitated into the meeting and dropped himself into the meeting. And because of that, the other monks knew, oh, okay, you're with us now. You're one of us. And there were 500 of them there. So that was really, I would love to have seen that. That would have been awesome. That's a great trick. So he did that, and he recited all of the teachings because of his wonderful memory. And Ananda actually was supposedly have lived to 120 years old. So he lived 40 more years because he was the same age as the Buddha. The Buddha died at 80. You can do the math. And when it came time for Ananda to die, he raised himself up and he let the fire element consume him. That's also, I would have loved to have seen that. Something else. And so, that's a really quick story of Ananda. If you go to if you read the book, The Great Disciples of the Buddha, the section of Ananda is like 40 pages, and there's so much to it there. So there's only so much I can say in just like maybe 20 minutes or so. But that is his story. It's a lovely and a wonderful story, and it's Ananda is someone I feel close to just because, hey, I'm not enlightened either. And I'm not enlightened like all these other monks got enlightened instantaneously, or in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or however long it was. And so at this time, what I'm going to do, because it's time, it's 8:02. Yeah, he is a pretty cool guy. Thank you, Marisa. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take any questions, listen to any comments, and just be here for whatever you have for me. Or you don't have to say anything. That's perfectly fine. So let's hope I'm more prepared next week. And I will be. Sorry, I had to do some things myself that I wasn't really used to on this account. So I apologize for that again. And it was wonderful to be here with you and to tell you this story and to have this meditation with you. Let's join our palms together at our hearts, please. And may the benefits of this meditation, this discussion, be received by all beings. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be joyful and at ease. May all beings be happy. May all beings be loved and seen for the beautiful, radiant beings that they are, that you are. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much, guys. It was wonderful to be here with you as always. Have a safe rest of your week and guard your mind always. And I will see you next time. Bye now.